Hey everyone, Sophia here. Welcome to Revenge Shift, where the best stories come to life. Hit subscribe for your daily dose. I met Marcus Thornton at a charity gala 7 years ago. I was there representing the Grant Foundation where I worked, securing funding for educational programs in underserved communities. He was there because his firm required a certain number of philanthropic appearances per year for tax purposes. He told me that directly third sentence into our conversation. I'm Marcus Thornton, Senior Portfolio Manager at Apex Capital. I handle the high net worth discretionary accounts. We're required to do 4 of these events annually. Tax optimization. Most people would have been put off by the clinical assessment of charity work. I found it refreshingly honest. Marcus didn't pretend to care about things he didn't care about. At 29, I appreciated clarity. Emma Chase, I said, extending my hand. I actually work in grants administration. So your tax-optimized donation might end up funding one of our literacy programs. He smiled. It transformed his entire face, softening the sharp angles of his jaw, warming the cool gray of his eyes. Then at least it's going somewhere useful. Tell me about your work. I did. For 40 minutes standing by the bar while people in $1,000 gowns drifted past, I explained how we identified educational gaps, structured grant proposals, tracked outcomes. Marcus listened with the same intense focus I'd later learn he brought to market analysis. He asked detailed questions about funding models, sustainability metrics, scalability potential. You think like an investor, he said finally. Have you ever considered moving into finance? I like what I do, I told him. There's something satisfying about seeing a program you funded actually change outcomes. Real kids learning to read, real data showing improvement. Measurable impact. Marcus nodded. That's rare. Most people just throw money at problems and hope. He asked for my number. We had dinner 3 days later. He was brilliant, successful, and remarkably direct about what he wanted. A partnership with someone intelligent, someone who understood that his work required focus and long hours, someone who wouldn't demand emotional performances he wasn't built to give. I'm not romantic, he told me on our 4th date. I don't believe in grand gestures or constant validation, but I'm loyal, I'm honest, and I'll never waste your time. If that works for you, I'd like to see where this goes. It worked for me. I married him 14 months later in a small ceremony at the courthouse, followed by dinner at his favorite restaurant. No fanfare, no pretense, just clear commitment. The first 3 years were good. Marcus worked 80-hour weeks during volatile markets, sometimes sleeping at the office during major positions. I managed our home, continued my grant work, and learned to appreciate his particular brand of affection efficiency, reliability, and the occasional dry humor that caught me off guard. He gave me an allowance of $10,000 monthly for household expenses and personal spending. At first, I bristled at the term, but Marcus explained it was simply financial organization. I handle the investments and major assets. You handle the household operations. This way, we're not duplicating effort or creating confusion about spending authority. It's just division of labor. It made logical sense. Marcus's fund consistently outperformed the market. His decisions had made his clients hundreds of millions. Why would I second-guess his financial management? But I'd always been curious about markets. Before Marcus, I dabbled in investing small amounts, learning the basics, reading everything I could find about valuation models and technical analysis. After we married, I kept learning. I had time during Marcus's long work hours. I had access to the research databases through his firm's family accounts. And I had that monthly $10,000. I started small. $500 into a few tech stocks I'd researched thoroughly. I watched them, tracked the patterns, learned from my mistakes. After 6 months, I was up 18%. I reinvested everything, studied more, refined my approach. Marcus never asked about it. Once early on, I mentioned I'd been reading about quantitative trading strategies. That's nice, honey, he'd said, eyes on his Bloomberg terminal. Just don't risk money we actually need. I didn't. I only used what he'd allocated for me. But I used it carefully, strategically, and with increasing confidence. By our 5th anniversary, I'd turned initial investments of $500 per month into a portfolio worth $98,000. Marcus had no idea. He never looked at my personal accounts. Why would he? I was handling the household. He was handling the real money. How's your little stock hobby going? He asked once, glancing up from a pitch deck during dinner. It's interesting, I said. I'm learning a lot. That's good. Keeps your mind active. Better than the tennis and spa routine most of my colleagues' wives do. I smiled and cleared his plate. By our 6th anniversary, my portfolio had grown to $230,000. I'd developed a strategy focused on technical analysis and momentum trading, with a particular eye for biotech stocks before FDA announcements. My hit rate wasn't perfect, but it was consistent. I was outperforming the S&P 500 by a significant margin. Marcus's fund was having a harder year. 2 major positions had gone sideways, and he was under pressure to show stronger returns. He came home later, drank more, grew shorter in his already brief communications. Rough quarter? I asked one evening, watching him pour his 3rd scotch. The market's irrational, he muttered. Fundamentals don't matter anymore. Everything's momentum and speculation. It's like playing tennis against someone who doesn't follow the rules. I thought about my biotech trades, my momentum strategies, but said nothing. I need this partnership, Emma. Senior partner. It's the culmination of everything I've built. The vote is in 6 months. You'll get it, I assured him. Your long-term numbers are excellent. They need to be exceptional. Thompson is the only other candidate, and his risk-adjusted returns are slightly better this year. It's going to be close. I watched him stare at his Bloomberg screen, jaw tight, shoulders rigid. Marcus had built his entire identity around being the smartest person in the room, the most successful, the most worthy. The partnership wasn't just a promotion. It was validation. I opened a separate brokerage account the next week. I named it Chase Capital, using my maiden name. I transferred half of my portfolio, $115,000 into it, keeping the rest in my original account. If Marcus ever did look at my finances, he'd see a modest portfolio. He'd have no reason to look deeper. Chase Capital grew. I spent my mornings while Marcus slept off late nights at the office, studying pre-market movements. I executed trades during market hours while handling household management. I reviewed positions each evening while Marcus worked in his study. 3 months before his partnership vote, my Chase Capital account crossed $500,000. 3 years of monthly $10,000 allowances, carefully deployed, had become $500,000. My original account held another $190,000. Marcus's fund was down 4% for the year. He started drinking earlier in the evenings. He stopped asking about my day. Our conversations became purely logistical. What time was the dry cleaning being delivered? Did I schedule the car service for his client dinner? Could I make sure his tuxedo was pressed for the Apex Capital Anniversary Gala? I need everything perfect for this event, he told me a week before our own anniversary, which happened to fall on the same night as the Apex Gala. Every senior partner will be there, every board member. This is where impressions are made. Of course, I said. I'll make sure everything is perfect. I bought a new dress. Elegant, understated, appropriate for a hedge fund manager's wife. I had my hair done professionally. I spent the afternoon of the gala ensuring Marcus's tuxedo was flawless. His shoes polished, his cufflinks, the Cartier ones his father had given him, properly set. The gala was held at the Metropolitan Club, all crystal chandeliers and old money. I'd been to dozens of these events. I knew the routine. Stand beside Marcus, smile at the right people, make pleasant conversation with the wives about nothing of consequence. Marcus was tense throughout cocktail hour. He circulated aggressively, working the room with the intensity he brought to closing deals. I followed at the appropriate distance, available but not demanding attention. Dinner was seated. We were at a table with 3 other senior portfolio managers and their wives, plus Marcus's main competitor for the partnership, David Thompson, and his wife Claire. The men talked markets. The women talked about an upcoming charity auction. I listened to both conversations, eating the perfectly prepared sea bass, sipping my wine. The volatility is unprecedented, Thompson was saying. Traditional models aren't capturing the risk properly. That's because traditional models assume rational actors. Marcus countered. The market is increasingly driven by retail speculation. It's noise, not signal. And yet the noise is making certain people significant returns, Thompson said with a slight smile. Marcus's jaw tightened. I saw it. The tiny tell. Thompson's numbers were better this year because he'd embraced momentum strategies. Technical trading, the approaches Marcus dismissed as unsophisticated, Short-term gains, Marcus said. Not sustainable. The fundamentals always reassert themselves. Perhaps, Thompson said, but the partnership vote isn't based on philosophy. It's based on returns. The table went quiet. It was a breach of etiquette mentioning the partnership competition so directly. Marcus's hand tightened around his wine glass. Well, Claire Thompson said brightly, trying to ease the tension, I'm just glad I don't have to understand all this. I leave the complicated financial things to David. I focus on the home and my charity work. Emma does grant administration, Marcus said, his tone slightly dismissive. She understands funding structures. Oh, that must be so rewarding, Claire said. Helping people. It is, I replied. Though I've also been learning about direct investing. It's fascinating. Emma plays with stocks, Marcus said, and there it was, the slight condescension, the affectionate dismissal. She has this cute little hobby with investment apps. It's like, he paused, looking directly at Thompson, then back at me, you play with stocks like other wives play tennis. It's adorable, really. The table laughed, not cruelly, but with understanding. The wives had their hobbies. The men had their careers. Everyone knew their place. I set down my fork carefully. I picked up my wine glass and drained it. Then I smiled at Marcus, really smiled, and said, Thank you for clarifying our financial arrangement. Something flickered across his face, confusion, perhaps, or the faint recognition that something had just shifted. But the moment passed. The conversation moved on. The rest of dinner proceeded normally. We stayed another hour after dinner. Marcus worked the room, courting the senior partners, laughing at the right jokes, projecting confidence despite Thompson's needle. In the car ride home, he was silent. I watched the city lights blur past. That was inappropriate, he finally said. Thompson bringing up the partnership at dinner. Yes, I agreed. And that crack about my returns. Unprofessional. Yes, I'm the better portfolio manager. Long-term, sustainable strategies. That's what the firm should value. Of course, we arrived home. Marcus went directly to his study to review Asian market opens. I went to our bedroom, removed the elegant dress, the professional hairstyling, the appropriate wife costume. I sat at my laptop and logged into my accounts. Chase Capital, $537,000. Original account, $193,000. Total, $730,000. 3 years. $10,000 per month. Careful research, strategic positioning, disciplined execution. I'd outperformed Marcus's fund by 41 percentage points. I opened a new document and began making a list. The next morning, while Marcus slept off his anniversary disappointment, I called Patricia Kim's office. Patricia Kim was the best divorce attorney in Manhattan. I'd researched her thoroughly. 58 years old, Harvard Law, 32 years of experience, and a reputation for securing record-breaking settlements while maintaining absolute discretion. I'd like to schedule a consultation, I told her assistant. This week if possible. And I need complete confidentiality. I met her 2 days later at her office in Midtown. She was exactly as I'd imagined from my research. Perfectly tailored suit, sharp eyes, and the kind of calm authority that comes from having won battles others didn't dare fight. Mrs. Thornton, she said, shaking my hand. Please, sit. Tell me about your situation. I told her everything. The 7-year marriage, the allowance, the dismissive comments that had been growing more frequent, the anniversary dinner, and my portfolio. Patricia's eyebrows rose slightly when I mentioned the numbers. $730,000 built from monthly household allowances? Yes. Does your husband know about these accounts? He knows I invest small amounts. He thinks it's a hobby. He's never asked for details, and I've never volunteered them. Smart. Patricia made notes on her legal pad. New York is an equitable distribution state, which means marital property is divided fairly, though not necessarily equally. Everything acquired during the marriage is generally considered marital property. I understand. However, she continued, your separate investment accounts, particularly Chase Capital, could be argued as separate property if we can demonstrate they were funded independently and managed without marital resources. The initial funding came from my allowance, which came from our joint finances. Technically, his income deposited into joint accounts, then allocated to you for household management and personal use. Patricia tapped her pen against her pad. Here's what's interesting, Mrs. Thornton. You've taken money that was given to you for a specific purpose and, through your own skill and effort, grown it substantially. That growth could be argued as separate property resulting from your personal expertise. What about the joint accounts? Our primary savings, his partnership stake? His partnership is marital property. His salary and bonuses during the marriage are marital property. If you file, you're entitled to an equitable share of everything acquired during the marriage, including the increased value of his partnership stake. She quoted a number. It was substantial, 7 figures substantial. But I don't want to drag this out, I said. I don't want months of litigation and discovery. I want it clean and fast. Patricia studied me. Why? Because he dismissed me. Because he called my skill adorable. Because I want him to wake up one day and realize exactly what I was capable of while he was unpaying attention. A slight smile crossed Patricia's face. I understand. If you want this fast, we'll need leverage. Information he doesn't want public. Evidence that makes settlement more attractive than litigation. What kind of evidence? Financial irregularities. Hidden accounts. Anything that would make him vulnerable to investigation or embarrassment. I thought about Marcus's late nights, his stressed demeanor, his pressure to deliver returns. Could I hire a forensic accountant? Someone who could review his trading patterns, look for anything unusual? I know several excellent forensic accountants. But Mrs. Thornton, understand that if we find something criminal, we're legally obligated to report it. I understand. And if we find nothing, then we proceed with standard divorce, clean division of assets, no drama. But I want to know what I'm dealing with. Patricia nodded. I'll set up a meeting with David Ramos. He's the best forensic accountant in the city. Former SEC investigator, now private practice. If there's anything unusual in your husband's trading, David will find it. I met with David Ramos 3 days later. He was younger than I expected, maybe 45, with wire-rimmed glasses and the distracted air of someone who spent most of their time staring at spreadsheets. Mrs. Thornton, he said, shaking my hand. Patricia explained your situation. You want me to review your husband's trading patterns and financial records? Yes, but I need to know, is this legal? Can I authorize this without his knowledge? You're married. You have a legal right to information about marital finances. If he's been hiding accounts or engaging in financial misconduct that affects marital assets, you absolutely have the right to investigate. Think of it as due diligence before a major transaction. Because divorce is a transaction. I provided David with everything I had access to. Marcus's account statements from our home files, his partnership agreement, his disclosure forms, his tax returns. David promised a preliminary analysis within a week. While I waited, I took a third meeting. This one with Catherine Walsh, a venture capitalist I'd been following for 2 years. Her firm, Phoenix Ventures, specialized in female-founded tech companies with innovative financial products. I didn't tell her I was getting divorced. I told her I was launching a trading education platform for women who'd been excluded from traditional financial networks. We see this pattern constantly, I explained, sitting in her glass-walled office overlooking Central Park. Women who are financially dependent, who've been told they can't understand investing, who've been dismissed as having cute hobbies when they show interest in markets. There's a huge underserved market, Catherine leaned forward. What's your background? 7 years of self-directed trading. I've turned modest monthly investments into a 7-figure portfolio. My returns have consistently outperformed major indices. And I've documented every strategy, every decision, every lesson learned. Show me your track record. I did. I showed her my Chase Capital account, the 3-year performance chart, the specific trades, the risk management protocols. I showed her my research process, my decision frameworks, my position sizing algorithms. Catherine studied the data for 15 minutes without speaking. Then she looked up at me. Your portfolio is up 340% over 3 years. Yes, you've done this without formal training, without institutional support, without access to proprietary research. I've had access to research databases through my husband's firm accounts. But the analysis and execution has been entirely mine. Mrs. Thornton, these are professional-level returns, better than professional level. Most fund managers would kill for this track record. Thank you. Why come to me? Why not just keep trading? Because I want to help other women do what I did. I want to build a platform that teaches real strategy, not the simplified investing advice usually directed at women. And I want to scale it, which requires capital. Catherine smiled. How much capital? Seed round of 3 million. 12-month runway to build the platform, create the curriculum, and acquire our first 1,000 users. What's your current user base? 0. This is ground floor. But I have the strategy, I have the track record, and I have an untapped market of millions of women who've been systematically excluded from financial education. And your husband? I assume he's funding this? I met her eyes. My husband doesn't know about this meeting. He won't be involved in the company. This is entirely separate. Something in my tone made Catherine pause. She studied me more carefully. I see. Does that change your interest? On the contrary, Catherine said slowly. It increases it. Women who build things despite being dismissed tend to build them with more determination. When can you start? 2 months, I said. I need to finalize some personal matters first. Then let's schedule a follow-up meeting in 2 months. If you're still interested, and if your personal matters are resolved, Phoenix Ventures will seriously consider a $3 million seed investment. Fair. More than fair. I left her office feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Validation. Not from Marcus, not from his world, but from someone who understood exactly what I'd accomplished. David Ramos called me 6 days later. Mrs. Thornton, I need to meet with you in person. And I need you to bring Patricia Kim. His tone set off alarm bells. This wasn't a routine review finding. We met at Patricia's office that afternoon. David had brought printed reports, highlighted documents, and a laptop with spreadsheets already queued up. I found irregularities, he said without preamble. Significant irregularities. Patricia leaned forward. Explain. David opened his laptop and turned it toward us. Your husband's trading patterns over the past 14 months show unusual positioning. He's been making large leveraged bets using margin accounts, borrowed money that magnifies both gains and losses. That's not necessarily illegal, Patricia said. No, David agreed, but here's where it gets interesting. These margin positions are concentrated in specific sectors, and the timing correlates with his firm's published research. He's essentially front-running his own firm's recommendations. Is that illegal? I asked. It violates his employment contract and ASIC regulations against insider trading. He's using material non-public information, his firm's upcoming research releases, to trade ahead of the market reaction. It's small enough to avoid automated detection, but it's definitely there. He's made approximately $400,000 this way over 14 months. Patricia and I exchanged glances. There's more, David continued. Some of these trades are being executed through accounts that aren't in his name. They're in your name, Mrs. Thornton. My stomach dropped. What? He's opened brokerage accounts using your identity, your social security number, your personal information. He's trading in your name without your knowledge or authorization. That's identity fraud. Why would he do that? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Plausible deniability, Patricia said. If the trades are discovered, if there's an ASIC investigation, he can claim his wife made them. You become the fall person. Can we prove I didn't authorize these accounts? I asked. We can prove you've never accessed them, never received statements, never executed trades through them. We can prove he had exclusive control, but he has your signatures on file. He probably had you sign authorizations mixed in with other documents. I thought back to all the times. Marcus had asked me to sign tax forms, investment documents, partnership paperwork. Don't worry about the details, he'd always say. Just standard financial filing. What do we do with this? I asked. Patricia and David exchanged glances. Then Patricia spoke carefully. We have 3 options. 1. We report this to the SEC immediately. Your husband faces federal investigation, potential criminal charges, and almost certain career destruction. 2. We use this as leverage to secure an extremely favorable divorce settlement with a non-disclosure agreement. He pays you to keep this quiet. 3. We do both report him and pursue maximum damages in the divorce. What would you recommend? Honestly, option 3. He's committed serious crimes. He's used your identity without consent. He's violated securities law. And he's done it all while dismissing your intelligence and financial capability. He deserves consequences. I thought about Marcus at the anniversary dinner, laughing about my adorable stock hobby. I thought about 7 years of subtle dismissal, of being pat on the head and told to stay in my lane. I thought about him opening accounts in my name, making me his unwitting accomplice in fraud. Do both, I said. Report him. And take him for everything he's got. Patricia smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. It was the smile of someone who'd just been given permission to do what she did best. Then we move immediately. David, prepare a complete report for the SEC. Document everything. I'll prepare divorce filings with a complete asset disclosure, including discovery of the fraudulent accounts. Emma, I need you to do something specific. Anything. The joint accounts, you are legally entitled to half of all marital assets. On the day we file for divorce, I want you to withdraw exactly 50% of every joint account. Not a penny more, not a penny less. Do it at exactly 7 a.m. when markets are opening, but before your husband is typically awake. Can you do that? Yes, good, because if he's been trading on margin using joint account funds, removing half the liquidity at 7 a.m. will trigger margin calls. He'll have to cover those positions immediately or face forced liquidation. It's completely legal, you're entitled to that money, but the timing will cause him significant problems. How significant? If his margin positions are as leveraged as David's suspects, it could be catastrophic. He could lose everything he's borrowed against. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. When do we file? Next Monday, 5 days from now. That gives David time to finalize the SEC report, gives me time to prepare all documentation, and gives you time to prepare the withdrawal authorizations. I'll be ready. Over the next 5 days, I moved through my life like a ghost. I cooked Marcus's dinners. I scheduled his dry cleaning. I confirmed his car service appointments. I played the role of the dutiful wife while systematically preparing to destroy everything he built. Marcus noticed nothing. He was too focused on his partnership vote, now less than 2 months away. He came home later each night, drank more, communicated less. Thompson's been spreading rumors, he told me one evening, 3 days before I was set to file. Saying my risk management is too conservative, that I'm missing opportunities. It's bullshit. He's just trying to undermine me before the vote. Your long-term numbers are excellent, I said, which was true. They need to be exceptional. He poured another scotch. I need this partnership, Emma. It's everything I've worked for. I know. On Sunday evening, the night before filing, I couldn't sleep. I lay next to Marcus in our bed, our expensive, carefully decorated, emotionally empty bed, and watched him sleep. This was the last night of our marriage, even though he didn't know it yet. I felt no sadness, no regret, just a cold, clear determination. At 6:30 a.m., I got up. I made coffee. I logged into every joint account we held. I calculated exactly 50% of each balance. I prepared withdrawal authorizations for each account, all timed to execute at exactly 7 a.m. At 6:55, Marcus's phone buzzed with his first alarm. He'd be awake soon, checking pre-market movements before his morning shower. At 6:59, I positioned my cursor over the final confirmation button. At 7 a.m. exactly, I clicked. Transfer authorized. $2,147,832 from Thornton Joint Savings to Chase, Emma L. Personal. Transfer authorized. $347,291 from Thornton Joint Investment to Chase, Emma L. Personal. Transfer authorized. $89,442 from Thornton Joint Money Market to Chase, Emma L. Personal. Total withdrawn. $2,584,565. I watched the confirmations process. 7:01 a.m. 7:02, 7-0-3. Marcus's phone rang at 7-0-4. I heard him fumble for it in the bedroom. What? I'm not even... Wait, what do you mean margin call? I have plenty of liquidity in the joint... What? I poured my coffee and waited. He appeared in the kitchen at 7:06. Phone pressed to his ear. Face pale. Check again. Check the account again. There should be over $2 million in savings alone. He looked at me. I met his gaze calmly, sipping my coffee. Emma, did something happen to our joint accounts? I withdrew my legal share, I said. 50% exactly. It's Monday morning. I thought it was a good day to organize my finances. His face went from pale to ashen. You... What? Emma, I have positions that require... I need to call you back, he said into the phone. He ended the call and stared at me. What did you just do? I exercise my legal right to half of our marital assets. Is there a problem? Is there a... Emma, I have leveraged positions. I have margin requirements. I can't cover them without that liquidity. Then perhaps you should close those positions. I can't just... They're strategic positions, long-term holdings. If I liquidate now, I'll take massive losses. His phone rang again, then again, then again. By 7:15, he'd received 9 calls. By 7:30, he'd stopped answering. Why would you do this? He asked, and for the first time in 7 years, I heard genuine confusion in his voice. What's going on? You'll be served with divorce papers at your office this morning, I said calmly. My attorney has filed with the court. I'm also providing information to the SEC regarding certain trading irregularities and accounts opened in my name without my authorization. The coffee cup in his hand trembled. What? You've been front-running your firm's research. You've been trading on margin using our joint assets as collateral. And you've been using my identity to open accounts without my knowledge or consent. That's securities fraud and identity theft, Marcus. Federal crimes. You don't understand. Those accounts were for tax optimization, I was going to tell you. I just needed to structure them properly first. Tell that to the SEC investigators. They'll be contacting you this week. Emma? His voice cracked. Please, we can work this out. I know I've been stressed about the partnership. I know I haven't been attentive. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling. I can be better. You called my investing adorable, I said quietly. You compared it to tennis. A cute hobby that wives do while their husbands handle real money. I didn't mean. My portfolio is worth $730,000, Marcus. I built that from your allowance over 3 years. My returns are up 340%. I've outperformed your fund by 41 percentage points. I've done it with technical analysis and momentum strategies, the approaches you dismiss as unsophisticated noise. He stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language. Phoenix Ventures is offering me a $3 million seed investment for my trading education company. Catherine Walsh called my track record professional level. Actually, she said better than professional level. You single quotes starting a company? I already started it. The filings went through last week. Chase Capital Strategies, LLC. I'm the sole owner and operator. His phone rang again, and again, and again. You need to answer those, I said. Your margin calls won't wait while we talk. I left him standing in the kitchen, phone buzzing constantly, face the color of old paper. I went to our bedroom, packed a single suitcase with essentials, and called the car service. Where are you going? Marcus appeared in the doorway. I've rented a furnished apartment in Tribeca. The address is in the divorce filing. All future communication should go through my attorney. Emma, please. You're destroying everything. No, I said, turning to face him. I'm revealing everything. You built your success on dismissing me. I'm just stepping out of the shadows. I walked past him, suitcase in hand, and didn't look back. The first week was chaos-controlled chaos, but chaos nonetheless. Marcus called 17 times on Monday alone. I didn't answer. He showed up at my new apartment Tuesday evening with flowers and apologies. I didn't open the door. He sent emails, texts, messages through mutual friends. Patricia filed a restraining order Thursday. No contact except through attorneys. The SEC investigation opened officially on Friday. David Ramos's report was thorough, detailed, and damning. Federal agents visited Marcus's office. His firm put him on immediate administrative leave pending internal investigation. His partnership vote, scheduled for 6 weeks out, was postponed indefinitely. I watched it all from my new apartment, working 12-hour days building Chase Capital Strategies. I designed the platform architecture, wrote the curriculum, created the content. Catherine Walsh checked in twice that first week. How are you holding up? She asked during our second call. Honestly, I feel free. For the first time in years, I'm using my full capabilities. The divorce is getting attention in financial circles. People are asking questions. Let them ask. Some of the partners are concerned about controversy affecting our investment. Are you concerned? Catherine was quiet for a moment. No, honestly, this whole situation is perfect proof of concept. You were systematically underestimated and dismissed. You built something extraordinary anyway. That's exactly the story we want to tell. That's exactly the audience we want to reach. So the investment is still on the table? Emma, I've seen your work this week. The platform design is brilliant. The curriculum is sophisticated but accessible. You're not just teaching stock picking, you're teaching decision frameworks, risk management, position sizing. This is real education, not simplified investing for women nonsense. Thank you. The $3 million is yours. Let's schedule the formal paperwork for next week. I hung up and allowed myself a moment of satisfaction. Then I went back to work. By week 2, Marcus's calls had stopped. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he'd lost 20 pounds, that he wasn't sleeping, that his apartment was a mess of takeout containers and unwashed clothes. His firm's internal investigation concluded. The findings confirmed everything David had documented: systematic front-running, unauthorized use of my identity, margin trading that violated firm policies. They terminated his employment immediately. Without the firm's backing, without his partnership track, without his reputation, Marcus's professional life collapsed. His clients pulled their accounts. Headhunters stopped returning calls. The industry whispered that he was toxic, untouchable, done. In week 3, his attorney contacted Patricia with a settlement offer. He's offering full equity distribution, Patricia told me over the phone. Complete assignment of marital assets, including his partnership stake's current value. No alimony for either party. Clean split, no admission of wrongdoing, mutual non-disclosure agreement. What's the total value? Approximately $1.8 million to you, after his debts and legal fees are subtracted from the marital estate. Combined with my portfolio and the Phoenix Ventures investment, that put me at over $5 million in liquid capital. Counteroffer, I said. I want $2.1 million, no non-disclosure agreement, and a written statement that all accounts opened in my name were created without my knowledge or consent. He won't agree to the public statement. Then we go to trial. And I testify about every dismissive comment, every cute hobby joke, every time he made me feel small. The press will love it. Brilliant female trader taken advantage of by arrogant hedge fund manager. It's perfect headlines. Patricia laughed. You're terrifying. I love it. Marcus's attorney agreed to the terms within 48 hours. The divorce was finalized in week 4. 4 weeks from filing to decree. Record speed for Manhattan. I received the settlement, $2.1 million, full release from any liability for his trading activities, and a notarized statement that I had no knowledge of or participation in the accounts opened in my name. The sex investigation continued without me as a subject. I attended the final court appearance alone. Marcus was there with his attorney, looking nothing like the confident hedge fund manager I'd married. His expensive suit hung loose on his frame. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. His hands trembled slightly when he signed the final documents. He tried to speak to me as we left the courthouse. Emma, all communication through attorneys, Mr. Thornton, Patricia said smoothly, stepping between us. I walked past him without a word. That evening, I met Catherine Walsh for dinner to sign the Phoenix Ventures investment documents. $3 million, seed funding for Chase Capital Strategies, Catherine said, sliding the contract across the table. Standard terms: Phoenix gets 20% equity, board seat, and right of first refusal on future rounds. You retain full operational control. I signed. When can you launch? Catherine asked. Beta testing in 4 weeks, public launch in 8. I'm targeting an initial user base of 5,000 women within the first 6 months. That's aggressive. I have motivation. Catherine smiled. I've noticed. Tell me something, Emma. Are you doing this to help other women? Or are you doing this to prove something to your ex-husband? Both, I said honestly. Is that wrong? Not even a little bit. The best companies are built by people with something to prove. Just make sure you're building something sustainable, not just a monument to revenge. My returns speak for themselves. The education is real. The platform is solid. But yes, there's satisfaction in knowing Marcus will see everything I build and realize exactly how wrong he was. Good, Catherine said. Use that. Channel it. Build something that makes him regret every dismissive comment. Then build something so big that his regret becomes irrelevant because you've moved so far past him that he vet him in your rearview mirror anymore. I raised my glass. To moving forward. To not looking back. Chase Capital Strategies launched 2 months after my divorce was finalized. The platform offered 3 tiers of education. Fundamental investing basics. intermediate technical analysis, and advanced strategies for active trading. Each tier included video lessons, interactive exercises, real-time market simulations, and community forums. But the real innovation was the mentorship program. Every woman who completed the advanced tier was paired with an experienced trader, me. Initially, plus 3 other women I recruited who had similar stories of being dismissed and succeeding anyway for 3 months of one-on-one guidance. We weren't teaching get-rich-quick schemes. We were teaching discipline, analysis, risk management, and the confidence to trust your own judgment. The platform went viral within 2 weeks. Articles appeared in financial media, trading education platform built by a woman whose hedge fund manager husband called her investing adorable. The story was irresistible. The dismissed wife, the hidden genius, the spectacular revenge. I gave exactly 3 interviews, all carefully controlled through Phoenix Ventures' PR team. I never mentioned Marcus by name. I didn't have to. Everyone in financial circles knew the story. In those interviews, I talked about systematic dismissal of women's financial capabilities. I talked about the cute hobby narrative that keeps women from taking investing seriously. I talked about the millions of women who have the intelligence and discipline to succeed in markets, but have never been given real education or encouragement. We're not teaching women to invest like men, I told Bloomberg in my final interview. We're teaching them to invest like themselves with their own analysis, their own strategies, their own confidence. And we're proving that when you give women real education instead of simplified pink finance, they thrive. Within 3 months, Chase Capital Strategies had 8,000 users. Within 6 months, we'd processed over 50,000 enrollments. Within 9 months, Catherine Walsh called to discuss Series A funding. "You've built something extraordinary," she said. "Your user retention is exceptional. Your completion rates are triple the industry average. And your users are seeing real results. The testimonials are incredible." "They're doing the work," I said. "I'm just providing the structure. Don't undersell yourself. You providing what no one else has provided. Real respect for women's capability combined with genuine education. It's powerful. So what's the Series A number? $20 million at a $250 million valuation. We're bringing in 2 additional venture firms to round out the syndicate. I did the math. My ownership would dilute to about 45%, but I'd have $20 million to scale operations, hire a real team, and build the platform into something truly transformative. "I'm in," I said. The Series A closed 2 weeks later. I made the announcement through a carefully crafted press release that outlined our growth, our impact, and our plans for expansion. I also announced the Chase Foundation, a nonprofit arm that would provide free financial education to women leaving abusive relationships. Because I'd learned through thousands of user stories that financial abuse and dismissal were often intertwined with other forms of control. "Financial independence is freedom," I told Forbes in an interview about the foundation. When someone tells you that you're too stupid to understand money, that you should just let them handle it, that your interest in investing is cute, that's not protection. That's control. We're teaching women that they can understand this, they can succeed at this, and they don't need anyone's permission to be financially capable. The Forbes article ran with the headline, "From Adorable Hobby to $250 million. Company. Emma Chase Revenge is Sweet Success." I didn't think about Marcus much during those months. I was too busy building, hiring, scaling, managing growth that exceeded even Catherine's aggressive projections. But occasionally, I'd hear things through mutual acquaintances still in finance circles. Marcus had been unemployed for 8 months. No major firm would touch him after the ASEC investigation and his firm's termination. He'd burned through his savings covering legal fees and the divorce settlement. He'd had to sell his penthouse, his car, his country club membership. He was drinking heavily. He'd gained weight, then lost it, then gained it again. His father had stopped taking his calls after Marcus had asked for money one too many times. He'd tried to launch a consulting practice, but no clients would work with someone whose last employer had terminated him for securities violations. I felt no satisfaction in his suffering. I felt nothing at all. He'd become irrelevant to my life, a footnote in my origin story. The 1-year anniversary of my divorce filing arrived in October. Chase Capital Strategies was processing 100,000 users monthly. We'd hired 45 employees. We'd expanded into international markets. We'd partnered with 3 major financial institutions to provide our curriculum to their customers. I was on the Forbes 40 Under 40 list. I'd been profiled in the Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, and Financial Times. I'd given a TED Talk about financial education and empowerment that had been viewed 2 million times. My personal portfolio, which I still managed actively, had grown to $1.9 million. I was living in a beautiful loft in Tribeca, nothing like the sterile penthouse I'd shared with Marcus. This space was mine, art I'd chosen, furniture I'd selected, colors and textures that brought me joy. I was dating casually, though nothing serious. I was learning that I enjoyed my own company, my own decisions, my own life, without needing someone else's validation. On the exact anniversary of my divorce filing, I received a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Emma? Marcus's voice. Rough, uncertain, nothing like the confident tone I remembered. I should have hung up immediately. But curiosity won. How did you get this number? I've been trying to reach you for months, through mutual friends. I finally convinced someone to pass it along. Please don't hang up. I waited. I saw your Forbes article, the one about the foundation. I read about everything you've built. Emma, it's extraordinary. I was wrong. About everything. You were never... Marcus, why are you calling? I wanted to apologize. I know it's too late. I know I destroyed everything. But I need you to know that I understand now what I had. How brilliant you are. How badly I failed to see you. You saw me, I said quietly. You just didn't respect me. I know. I was arrogant. I was so focused on my own success that I couldn't see anyone else's potential. Especially not my wife's. That's unforgivable. Yes, it is. I've lost everything, Emma. My career, my reputation, my marriage. I'm working as a financial analyst for a small firm making $60,000 a year. I live in a studio apartment in Queens. I'm on antidepressants and seeing a therapist twice a week. I felt no sympathy. Just mild interest in how far he'd fallen. I'm not telling you this to ask for anything, he continued. I just wanted you to know that I understand what I lost. Not the money or the status. You, the person you are. The partnership we could have had if I'd ever actually seen you as an equal. We were never going to be equals, Marcus. Because you can't respect someone you consider beneath you. And some part of you will always believe that you're smarter than everyone else in the room. I used to believe that, he said. Now I know there are different kinds of intelligence. You have a strategic mind that's frankly better than mine. You always did. I was just too arrogant to admit it. Is there a point to this call? I wanted to say I'm sorry. And I wanted to ask the foundation. The one helping women leaving abusive relationships. I'd like to donate. I don't have much, but I have some savings. I thought maybe I contribute. Why? Because I was that abuse, Emma. Maybe not physically, but I controlled you financially. I dismissed you systematically. I made you small so I could feel big. That's abuse. I understand that now. And if I can help even one woman escape what I put you through, maybe that's something. I was quiet for a long moment. Send the donation to the foundation's website, I finally said. It will be processed like any other contribution. Anonymous if you prefer. Thank you. Marcus, I need to go. I have a board meeting in 30 minutes. Of course. I'm sorry for taking your time. And Emma, I really am proud of what you've built. That's not me trying to take credit or insert myself into your success. I just wanted you to know that I see it. Finally, I see you. I ended the call without responding. Later that evening, I met Catherine Walsh for dinner to celebrate our 1-year anniversary as business partners. To chase capital strategies, Catherine said, raising her glass. And to the woman who proved that the best revenge is building something that changes lives. It was never about revenge, I said, though that wasn't entirely true. Wasn't it? At least partly. Partly, I admitted. But mostly it's about proving that we can. That women can understand this, can succeed at this, can build wealth and financial security without needing someone's permission or approval. Mission accomplished. What's next? International expansion. Educational partnerships with universities. Maybe eventually an ETF that invests specifically in companies with strong female financial leadership. Ambitious. I have a lot of time to make up for, I said. 7 years of being small. I'm done with that. My phone buzzed with a notification. A donation had been processed through the foundation website. $5,000. Anonymous donor. Marcus's entire savings, probably. A small gesture, but genuine. I didn't acknowledge it. I didn't need to. I built something that had moved far beyond him, far beyond our marriage, far beyond revenge. I built something that mattered to me, to our users, to the thousands of women who were learning that their intelligence and capability were never in question. They'd just been systematically told otherwise by people who needed them to be small. The waiter brought our entrees. Catherine and I talked about Q4 projections, Series B timing, and potential acquisition offers that I had no intention of accepting. My phone rang again. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Some calls weren't worth answering. Some chapters were finished. And some victories were too satisfying to dilute with backward glances. I was Emma Chase now, not Emma Thornton, not someone's wife, not anyone's cute hobby. I was the CEO of a $250 million company. I was a teacher, a mentor, a financial educator. I was someone who'd turned dismissal into determination and built an empire from an allowance. And I was just getting started.